Hi guys, welcome back. This is the second episode of my thinking gatherings to analyze what Wall Street sees in NIO and we don't. A lot of people have doubts about NIO expanding to overseas. They doubt that NIO can still have the advantages out of China without the government support, without the advantage of being at home. Who would pay for this kind of price for a Chinese car? And because most people live in the house, why would they need a battery swap station? Let's talk about this in this episode. First of all, do you know what Chinese people love or appreciate the most about NIO? Okay, maybe you would think it's the service, the battery swap, the BAAS model, the design of the car, the technology, the NIO house, etc. I can tell you these are all the reasons. They are all true. But I want to point out something deeper than this. I think it's the deepest reason inside, and it's very simple. It's that NIO is the first Chinese car in history that people want to buy, not because they have to, but because they want to. Remember I explained before? The have to and the want to makes the world of difference. In the past, you see the Chinese cars selling very well, but it's very hard to get away from the fact that their first selling point is being cheap. And for anyone who is driving a Chinese car, it's hard to get away from the image of being cheap and the feeling of, yeah, I'm sorry you have to buy a Chinese car, but hey, I hope it works just as much as other cars. Because Chinese cars always give an image of being cheap, bad quality, copying everything from international brands, and the technology is always years behind. Even the look of it, trying to look identical so people don't tell the difference. Sometimes I'm amazed myself by the top-level imitation, but it's really not the same thing. So Tesla has a futuristic door design, and Chinese has something similar. Not quite. Chinese people know this, they laugh at it, they joke about it, but I don't think anyone likes the feeling of this. The fixed perception of Chinese cars for so many years, it's something very hard to change for Chinese brands. But NIO is really starting to change people's perception on Chinese cars. The premium brand image, the premium service, the premium quality of the car, their own innovation, the design that's not copying any international brands, the high-end community, the youth, the energy, the taste, and as Li Bin said, he thinks buying a NIO car is a ticket to the NIO community. The brand culture, the brand experience, not too high, that's too niche, that only targets to a very small percentage of people. And at the same time, not too low, not too accessible. It's a whole consumer experience within the reach. It's the affordable luxury, the exclusiveness that's accessible. On top of that, they have the innovation that's different than anyone. The battery swap, the BAAS, that's original. Not copying any other brands like many other Chinese brands did. Not copying Tesla, the leader of the EV. The design has their own identity instead of trying to look like a German luxury car. This is what a lot of people appreciate and can be proud of. That's why this brand position perfectly circles the group of customers, the early adapters. They're young, they stay on top of trends. They are educated and open-minded enough to realize Chinese cars are not the same as 10 years ago, and confident enough to drive around with a Chinese car and at the same time feel very proud of their choice they made. At first, when someone runs into a NIO car, a lot of them had the same reaction. Wait, that's a Chinese car? Wow, it doesn't look like one. So premium and completely different than what everyone imagined what a Chinese car would look like. This kind of shock can slowly change people's mindset about Chinese car or Chinese brands. And it makes every NIO car owner more proud. For example, I have a friend who's a multi-billionaire. He can literally buy any car he wants in the world, but he said he's buying a NIO now. This is why I said this group of seed users are the perfect image of NIO, and them driving a NIO car around is physically the walking advertisement for NIO. Even though Chinese economy have been growing so rapidly in the past 10 to 20 years, it was always a myth to not have a Chinese car brand that people feel so proud to own. To not have a Chinese car in the whole world that people recognize to be a proud identity. It's very difficult to do. Brands need culture more than the product itself. It is the added value of brands, and it's the most difficult thing for Chinese brands. And this is exactly what NIO had been working on all these years. They had been through a lot of obstacles to achieve this. And this is again NIO's moat. NIO is the first Chinese car in history that people buy not because they have to, but because they want to. It's not cheap at all, but they still want to buy it. In fact, they give such a high rating for it. They can actually feel so proud of it. And it's the high-end brand that they actually want to spend money with. And NIO owners will feel even more proud once they see NIO becoming an international brand. The first high-end Chinese brand that will be viral to the world. It does make people proud of their purchasing decision on NIO. Then, this is elevated to the matter of a Chinese car dream. NIO is carrying a dream of the 1.5 billion of Chinese, so it's the first brand to be able to do that. To make people want to buy a Chinese car, not because they have to, and just for this reason, can you imagine how much support NIO would get? NIO would be the first Chinese car that's popular in the world, but Tesla is not the first American car to do that. Just for this, it would give NIO a great advantage. So this is why NIO is not only getting the great support from the Chinese government, but also the massive support from Chinese people. This would explain why they can have 2,000 fans to volunteer in China in 2020, and why even during the most difficult time of NIO in 2019, when they had financial issues, NIO users would pay for NIO's advertisement out of their own pockets and did not ask for anything in return. This is an image of a NIO user projecting NIO logo on a mountain in Beijing. Here it goes again, a NIO user paying for NIO's ad out of his own pocket in 2021. They do that because they want to be a part of this mission of blue sky coming. And even deeper in their heart, they want to be a part of the mission of proving Chinese can make premium cars. Just for this brand mission, can you imagine the support they can get from the Chinese people in all different countries? So there are near 50 million of Chinese living outside of China, in almost every single country in the world. I'm not surprised if they can gather 20,000 volunteers in the world, if they want to. And I think they would bring along their resources and connection in that country to help support NIO's international expansion. They can help with setting things up, choosing the location, the adaptation of local culture, customer surveys. All of these can be done even before NIO arrives in all these countries. 50 million of Chinese living outside. Even just 1% of them are willing to support NIO's expansion. Think about the effect. This had never happened before in history, and I can imagine how powerful it will be. This is what happens when a brand is carrying a big mission like this. Some people may think, how can NIO sell in a mature market like the US, for example, with very high brand consciousness? I used to work in BMW in Canada, and I know they put a lot of efforts on the Chinese customers. Almost every quarter, the top sale location is in one of the Chinese community. Because it's the Chinese culture, a lot of Chinese people are willing to spend more money on a premium car. And we know NIO is currently aiming the BAAS competition, the BMW, Mercedes-Benz, Audi. So when NIO enter in a different country, like America, even if at the beginning it's just the local Chinese buying NIO, it might be already enough revenue to survive at first. But this is, of course, the most conservative thesis, because I see so many NIO fans in every country. They cannot wait for NIO to go to their country. So I really feel very confident about this international expansion. And some may think the battery swap is not needed outside of China, as most people live in houses, and everyone can have the home charging. From here, I will use the US market, for example, of the international market. A lot of the Americans like to go on road trip, right? Now imagine you're going on a road trip with your kids. It takes 5 hours to drive to the destination. It's already getting late at night. Your kids are in the car getting cranky. They keep asking you, are we there yet? It's their bedtime already. You are 1 hour away from the hotel, but your car is running out of battery. So now, would you prefer to wait for it to charge on the side of the highway, or do you prefer a battery swap in 3 minutes? And some may say in the future, there is supercharge everywhere, and the solid-state battery can be charged very fast. First of all, it will take a few years, while NIO's battery swap can already build consumer habits, which is one of the most difficult things to change, as I explained in the last episode. And secondly, I believe the battery swap station would be improved significantly by then as well, to be more convenient. And third, with the battery swap, you don't even need to get off the car when it's in extreme weather. You don't need to drive the car to the spot. You can just click a button on your phone and your car would drive itself into the spot and the battery would be automatically swapped. How many of you hate to get off the car to put gas in now when it's extremely cold, windy, snowstorm? Ask any women if this sounds attractive. And did you know women accounts for 80% of the purchasing decisions in a household, which includes purchasing of the car? And some may worry, how would the US market take the BAAS model? I actually think this is something that works better in US than in China. In the US, people are quite used to the lease contract, much more than the Chinese market. Chinese are changing in these recent years, but a lot of people are still used to buying the car up front and not owning the battery themselves, and paying monthly fees is still something some people need to digest. But in the US, they are much more acceptable for this, and there is great advantage for the BAAS. Think about how much you always have to pay for the sometimes. Sometimes we have guests over. Maybe we should buy a bigger house. Sometimes we pick people up from the airport. We should get a bigger trunk. Sometimes we take the parents with us too. Maybe we should get a 7 seats. Sometimes we go on a road trip. Maybe we should buy a bigger battery. But with the BAAS, you can choose to change it according to the use of the time. So you can pay for the bigger battery only when you go on a road trip. So you can stick with a cheaper battery for going to work usually, for daily use. So you can choose according to the month. I think this is a strong selling point for the BAAS model. I know Li Bin had been planning the international expansions long time ago, probably back in 2014. That's why some of the strategy, the infrastructure built around NIO, had already kept this in mind ahead of time. And now we know NIO's international expansion is already starting. NIO is entering European market through Norway. I think it's because they want to start small at first. It's the right way to do it. Norway is a good entrance. It's not too big that they cannot handle it at first. And it's where they can do trials and errors, where they can research on the European culture, the user habits of EV in Europe, before the big expansion. I see them playing it safe this time, and it's smart to do. Because once you make a big move, it's hard to change, as everything requires heavy infrastructure to be built. For example, the battery swap stations are expensive, so any alternation is cash burning again. So they're playing it safe, playing smart, and once they're ready, once they have figured out the way to expand the market in another country, they can go explosive into many different countries at the same time, especially given the support by millions of people. Knowing this just gives me great confidence of NIO in the future 2 to 3 years. So this is the second episode of NIO, about what I think the Wall Street sees in NIO and we don't. Hope this answers to some of your questions. And if you have enjoyed my video, please give me a big like and give me a great comment, and I will see you in the next video. That's it, guys. Hope you can find my video helpful. Make sure you subscribe to my channel and give me a big like. Thank you.